The rays came through at 4:47 on a Thursday afternoon, and the first thing I did was close the email. Not to celebrate, not to call anyone, just close it. Like if I didn't look at it too long, I wouldn't have to decide what it meant. I sat in the same chair I'd sat in for 3 years. Same desk, same view of the parking structure, same cup of cold coffee I'd stopped drinking an hour ago. And I thought about something a professor once said, one of those throwaway lines that disappear from your memory for years until one specific moment pulls them back. The problem with golden handcuffs is that they're custom made. Someone has to measure your wrists first. I looked at the number one more time. More money than my father had made in 3 years combined. And sitting there, in the quiet of that Thursday, in the chair that had slowly and precisely molded itself to the shape of my reluctance, I felt nothing. Not relief, not pride, just the soft, particular sensation of a door closing behind you, the kind you don't hear until the room gets cold. I grew up in a house where money was discussed the way some families discuss illness, carefully, briefly, never in front of guests. My father drove the same car for 14 years because, as he put it, a car is a tool, not a statement. I was 12 when he sat me down at the kitchen table and explained that the only reliable path to a stable life was education, then a job, then patience. Not happiness, stability. He said the word like it was the more important one, and from that kitchen, at 12 years old, I believed him. I was 22 when I graduated. The suit didn't fit right, sleeves too long, kept pushing them up all day. They offered $61,000 and I thought I had won. The first apartment smelled of another tenant's cooking every evening. I built the bed frame wrong, slept slightly tilted for 6 months. I ate cereal for dinner 4 nights a week. I loved it. Not because it was good, because it was mine, and I'd built it from the exact steps I'd been told would work, and they had worked. Nobody hands you a trap and tells you it's a trap. By 25, the studio had become a 1-bedroom. By 26, the 1-bedroom had a second room I used as an office for the job I was doing at home on the same laptop I used at the actual office. The changes were small enough to be invisible individually. The coffee shop near my apartment stopped feeling worth the trip. The gym I'd joined because it was $22 a month started to feel, somehow, embarrassing. The shoes changed, the phone changed, the jacket changed. I told myself I was just arriving, that the version of me who ate cereal in a tilted bed was a beginning, not a standard. That voice, the one that said, "Treat yourself, you work hard, you've earned this," it sounded so reasonable. It was the most expensive voice I've ever heard. By 27, I had commitments I'd never agreed to in writing. The apartment required a salary bracket. The car required another. The subscriptions, the gym upgrade, the trip I'd booked because a colleague mentioned Lisbon in a meeting and I'd felt, suddenly, poor. All of it required the number. The number required the job. The job required me. One night, sitting on a couch that was very nice, holding a phone that was very new, looking at a banking app that showed a very healthy balance, I felt it for the first time. Not dread, exactly. Something quieter, more like recognition, like finally seeing the shape of something that had been forming in the dark for years. I started doing math in meetings, not the kind on the agenda. Someone would be presenting Q3 projections and I'd be sitting there, nodding at the right intervals, running numbers in my head. If I'm here 52 weeks a year, and 50 of those feel exactly like this, the fluorescent light, the slide deck, the phrase, circle back, the coffee I drink because I need it, not because I want it, What is the unit cost of what I'm actually selling? Not the salary, the cost. There's a particular kind of tiredness that doesn't come from working hard. It comes from working with no destination, from being good at something you would, in another life, have chosen to be good at. I was very good at it. That was the worst part. There was a guy I'd started with. Call him Marcus. Dark blue backpack, always 10 minutes early, thermos of his own coffee, never the office stuff. We used to eat lunch on the roof when it wasn't raining, 2 years in a row. Then one Tuesday, his name wasn't on a project handoff. He'd left, gone back to school for something about architecture and community spaces. I never fully understood the specifics, but once, in an elevator, he'd tried to explain it, hands moving the way hands move when someone is talking about something they actually care about. I'd nodded and said, "That's great," and gotten off on my floor. I texted him about 6 months later. Nothing specific, just checking in. He replied 3 days later, long message. He was broke, stressed, working more hours than before, not even a little apologetic about any of it. He wrote one line I've thought about more times than I can count. I wake up stressed about the same things as before. I'm just stressed about something that feels like mine. The moment everything crystallized happened on a Sunday. Not a dramatic Sunday, not a Sunday when anything happened, a laundry and grocery Sunday, the kind that exists to be forgotten. I was making coffee, half watching something on my phone, one of those videos that auto-plays at the end of something you actually chose, and a voice said, "If your salary disappeared tomorrow, how much of your current life would you still choose?" The kettle started screaming. I didn't move. I stood there and ran the question through everything. This apartment, I picked it because it was close to the office. I'd never once thought, this is where I want to live. I'd thought, this is convenient. The clothes in the closet, half of them were purchased for a version of me that other people found credible. This city, I couldn't tell you a single thing I loved about it that wasn't proximity to something I was obligated to be near. And then the center of it, the one I'd been circling for years without being able to name. If the salary disappeared, would I still be here? I already knew the answer. That's what made it devastating. Because it meant I had been here the whole time, not because I chose this life, but because I was afraid of what it would cost to unchoose it. Not the money. The story. The story I'd been telling to my parents, to my colleagues, to people I met at parties, to myself at midnight when I couldn't sleep. The story of a person who was responsible, successful, building something. That story required the job, and without the job, I didn't know what was underneath. The cage isn't locked from the outside. Most of the time, there is no lock at all. There is only the story you've been repeating for so long, you've forgotten it was a story. I still work there. There was no cinematic exit, no speech, no email sent, no bridge burned dramatically in the glow of a corner office at midnight. What there was, a Sunday in a kitchen, a question I couldn't stop running, and a very slow, very private reckoning with the distance between the life I was inside and the life I would recognize as mine. Some mornings, I get on the same train, find the same approximate seat, and watch the city pass the window in that familiar blur. There's usually a man across from me, mid-50s, collar slightly loosened before 9 a.m., phone face up on his knee, already checking emails on the way in. I used to look at him and feel a low, private dread. Now I look at him and think, I see you, not with pity, with recognition. The handcuffs are not the worst part. The worst part is the moment you realize you assembled them yourself, link by link, year by year, from materials that all seemed reasonable at the time, and you cannot find the lock because you swallowed the key so gradually you forgot you did it. If this story felt a little too close, there are more confessions like this one from people who also did everything right. Right now, somewhere, someone is sitting in a chair that has slowly molded itself to the shape of their reluctance. They're holding a number that should feel like a win. The room is going cold. They're wondering how long you can live in a house you'd only keep if someone else was paying for it.